The day was finally here. The day Ethan had been dreaming of for weeks. He was standing in line at a bustling fan event, gripping his mother's hand tightly as they waited for their turn to meet Johnny Depp. The excitement in the air was contagious, but Ethan couldn't shake the nervous feeling in his stomach. His eyes darted around, taking in the bright lights, the excited voices, and the buzz of fans, eagerly awaiting their moment with the actor they admired so much. Johnny Depp, a man who had always seemed larger than life on the screen, was known for being warm, approachable, and kind to his fans. He had a way of making everyone feel seen, special, and important, no matter who they were. Ethan had watched interviews, seen pictures, and heard the stories of how Johnny made fans feel like family. But now, standing just a few feet away from him, all of that seemed distant. Ethan's mother, Sarah, watched him closely. She knew her son well and could tell that there was something more to his nerves. She couldn't help but wonder if it was the excitement of meeting Johnny Depp or something deeper, something Ethan had been carrying in silence for days. She decided to wait, watching for any sign of what might be bothering her sweet boy. The fan event was a whirlwind of energy. The air was filled with excited chatter as fans, young and old, exchanged stories of their admiration for Johnny Depp. Cameras clicked and flashed constantly, capturing moments of joy, excitement, and disbelief as people got closer to meeting the actor they'd idolized for so long. Ethan could feel the rush of the crowd, the hum of voices, the sharp scent of popcorn, and the faint buzz of the sound system playing Johnny Depp's movie clips. Yet, amidst all the noise, Ethan felt a strange stillness within himself. His heart raced, but it wasn't from excitement, it was from something deeper, something heavier that he couldn't quite explain. When it was finally their turn, Sarah gently nudged Ethan forward. He looked up at her, his eyes wide with awe, as they approached the table where Johnny Depp was waiting, a warm smile already on his face. Johnny stood, his trademark sunglasses pushed up to his forehead, his hair tousled in that familiar, effortless way. He greeted them both with a genuine warmth, his voice soothing. "Hey there, buddy," he said to Ethan, bending down slightly so he was eye level with him. "You've got a great smile. How are you doing today?" Ethan's nerves seemed to melt away just a little at the kindness in Johnny's voice. He returned a shy smile, his eyes darting away, his fingers fiddling nervously with the strap of his backpack. Sarah could see how starstruck he was, but Johnny's charm made Ethan feel at ease. The actor's friendly, down-to-earth presence made the experience feel less like a dream and more like a conversation between friends. But then, something shifted. As they stood there, chatting about movies, Ethan's usual shyness seemed to fade for a moment. He couldn't help it. The words had been building up inside of him for days, and now, with Johnny Depp standing so close, it felt like the right moment to speak. His heart thudded harder in his chest, but he leaned closer to Johnny, lowering his voice to a whisper. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said, his voice barely above a breath. Johnny, who had been smiling kindly, suddenly grew still. He leaned in, his expression softening as he focused on the boy. "What is it, Ethan?" Ethan hesitated for a moment before speaking the words that had been haunting him. "My mom, she's been talking about a man, someone bad. He's close to our family. I think he's dangerous." Johnny's friendly expression faltered just slightly, a flicker of concern crossing his face. His brow furrowed, and he looked down at Ethan, searching his eyes as if trying to understand. The warmth he had shown just moments before was replaced by a quiet seriousness. He nodded slowly, signaling for Ethan to go on. But as the boy continued, Johnny's worry deepened. Ethan took a deep breath, his small hands trembling slightly as he spoke again. "I've been hearing my mom talk to someone on the phone. A man she trusts. But he's not good. He's been doing bad things. Things that could hurt us. I heard her say that he's dangerous." Johnny's heart skipped a beat. He leaned in even closer, his gaze fixed on the boy, his hand instinctively reaching out to rest gently on Ethan's shoulder. Ethan's voice was barely audible, as if the weight of his words was too much for him to carry. "I don't really understand," Ethan continued, "but I think this man has been doing bad stuff, and I think he wants to hurt my mom." His eyes dropped to the floor, as if saying the words out loud made it all too real. Johnny's mind raced. he felt an overwhelming sense of protectiveness wash over him. This wasn't just any secret, it was a dangerous one that no child should ever have to carry. Johnny's expression shifted, the warmth in his eyes replaced by a sharpness that came from years of experience. He didn't know exactly what was going on, but he knew it wasn't something to take lightly. "Ethan," Johnny said softly, his voice steady but firm, "I need you to promise me something. Don't tell anyone else what you just told me. Not yet, okay? This is really serious, and I don't want you to get in trouble." Ethan nodded, his eyes wide and full of confusion, but trust in his heart. Johnny gave him a reassuring smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I promise everything will be okay," Johnny continued, his voice gentle but filled with an undercurrent of concern. But even as he spoke those words, he wasn't sure himself. The weight of the boy's secret stayed with him, lingering in the pit of his stomach. This wasn't just about a fan meeting anymore. Something was very, very wrong. As the fan event came to a close, Johnny Depp couldn't shake the feeling that had settled deep in his gut. The warmth of the encounter, the smiles and laughter, all seemed distant now. Ethan's words echoed in his mind, replaying over and over again. "Someone close to our family. He's dangerous." Johnny watched as Ethan and his mother, Sarah, walked away from the table. Ethan's head was slightly lowered, his shoulders tense, and Johnny could see how the boy's face had lost its earlier brightness. Something about the way they left made Johnny uneasy, as if they were carrying a heavy burden neither of them had fully shared. He couldn't just let it go. As the crowd started to thin out, Johnny stayed behind, his mind racing with thoughts of what the boy had revealed. His usual calm demeanor felt out of place now. He wasn't just an actor in a crowd. He was a man who had just heard a secret that no child should ever have to bear. A secret that could be more dangerous than anyone realized. Johnny glanced around to make sure no one was watching before he pulled out his phone. His fingers hovered over the screen for a moment before he dialed a number he knew by heart. "Hey, it's Johnny," he said, his voice tight, betraying the calm exterior he usually maintained. He paused, waiting for the other person to answer, his eyes scanning the now quiet venue. "I need your help. It's urgent." On the other end of the line, there was a brief pause before the voice replied, calm but curious. Johnny's voice dropped to a near whisper as he leaned against the table, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. "It's about a kid, Ethan. He told me something his mother doesn't even know he heard. I think he's in danger. He said there's a man close to their family, someone who's been involved in some really shady stuff. I don't know the details, but I need to know if you can look into it. I'm not sure what's going on, but it feels serious. He's just a kid, and his mom doesn't have any idea." Johnny's heart pounded as he spoke. Normally, he was the one people came to for advice, for calm reassurance. But right now, he was the one seeking answers, trying to make sense of a situation that felt like it was spiraling out of control. His fingers tightened around the phone, his anxiety creeping up, though he fought to keep his voice steady. "I just don't want them to get hurt," he added, the weight of his words sinking in. "I need to do something. Please, let me know what I should do." There was a long pause on the other end before the voice responded with a promise to investigate. Johnny let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding, but even then, the unease didn't fade. His mind was spinning. Was he doing the right thing? Could he really protect Ethan and his family? He didn't know what lay ahead, but for the first time in a long time, Johnny felt like something much bigger than a fan interaction was on his shoulders. As the days passed after the fan event, Sarah couldn't shake the growing concern she felt about her son. Ethan, who had always been so bright and lively, seemed different now. Distant, withdrawn. His usual enthusiasm for his favorite activities was gone, replaced by a quiet sadness that she couldn't understand. He had become almost silent, retreating to his room more often than not, his eyes downcast and his voice barely above a whisper when he did speak. At first, Sarah thought it might be the excitement of meeting Johnny Depp. She figured maybe the encounter had overwhelmed Ethan, as she knew he had been nervous about the whole event. But the more she observed, the more she felt that there was something deeper. Something Ethan wasn't sharing with her. His change in behavior wasn't just about the fan meeting. It was something else. Something was weighing on him, and she had no idea what it was. She tried to talk to him, gently asking if anything was wrong, if something was bothering him. But Ethan would always shrug it off, a faint look of guilt crossing his face before he quickly changed the subject. It broke Sarah's heart. She could see he wanted to open up, but the words just didn't seem to come. Then that night, as she sat alone in the kitchen, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. Sarah hesitated before answering, but when she did, her breath caught in her throat. The voice on the other end was unmistakable. Johnny Depp's. "Hi, Sarah." Johnny's voice was warm but tinged with urgency. "I'm sorry to call you like this, but I need to talk to you about something. It's about Ethan. I'm worried about his safety." His words sent a cold shiver down Sarah's spine. The tone in Johnny's voice was unlike anything she had ever heard. It wasn't just concern, it was fear, and that made her blood run cold. Sarah's mind raced as Johnny Depp's words echoed in her head. "I'm worried about Ethan's safety." She could feel the weight of his concern pressing down on her chest, making it hard to breathe. What could this possibly mean? Why was Johnny, of all people, calling her with such urgency? What had Ethan shared that was so dangerous? As she listened to Johnny, a cold realization began to dawn on Sarah. The pieces of a puzzle that had seemed so unrelated now began to fit together in a way that sent chills down her spine. Ethan had overheard something, a secret about a man who was close to their family, someone who had been involved in shady, dangerous activities. And now, Johnny was telling her that it wasn't just a harmless slip of a child's imagination, it was real. Suddenly, the details of the past few months started to rush back. Unsettling phone calls, strange visitors at the house, unfamiliar faces in town that Sarah had brushed off as coincidence. She remembered the whispers that had sometimes filtered through conversations at family gatherings, the way people would go quiet whenever she entered the room. She had been too distracted by her own life to pay much attention to the subtle changes, but now they felt like warning signs she had ignored. Who was the man? Her stomach churned as she thought back. It couldn't be, could it? No. She refused to believe it at first, but the pieces were falling into place, and she could no longer deny the horrible truth. The man Ethan had overheard wasn't just some distant acquaintance. He was someone much closer to her, a man Sarah had trusted. A family member, a person who had always seemed like a reliable, upstanding figure in their lives, but who it seemed had been living a double life, involved in illegal activities that could destroy them all. The weight of betrayal crushed Sarah's chest. The fear for Ethan's safety was consuming her. She had no idea how deep this went or what kind of danger they were truly in, but she knew she couldn't ignore it anymore. Johnny Depp's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. "Sarah, I don't want to panic you, but this is serious. You need to contact the authorities. This situation could be dangerous for you and Ethan. You can't do this alone." Her hands clenched the phone tightly. Johnny's offer to help felt genuine, but Sarah hesitated. Could she trust the authorities? Who could she trust anymore? Everything was crumbling around her, and the weight of the uncertainty made her dizzy. But then it hit her with sudden clarity. She wasn't just fighting for her own safety. She was fighting for Ethan's life. And if she didn't act now, they could both be in grave danger. She couldn't wait any longer. The truth was terrifying, but she had to face it head-on. "Okay, Johnny," she said, her voice shaky but firm. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect Ethan." Sarah's heart raced as she prepared for the confrontation. She had no idea who she could trust anymore. The world she once knew had begun to crumble, and the man who had been a trusted figure in her life now seemed like a stranger, someone capable of terrifying things. But one thing was clear. She couldn't back down. She had to protect Ethan, no matter the cost. She left the house early that morning, her mind a storm of thoughts. With Johnny Depp's warning still fresh in her mind, she knew that this wasn't just about confronting a man who was involved in shady dealings. It was about confronting a danger that could destroy everything she and Ethan had. Sarah had gathered as much information as she could, piecing together the puzzle of the past few months. But now, it all came down to this moment. She had to face him. As she arrived at the place where she had arranged to meet the man, her breath caught in her throat. There he was, standing in the shadows, just as she had feared, His eyes met hers, cold and calculating, and for a split second, she could feel the weight of the moment. Her pulse pounded in her ears, and her hands felt clammy with fear. She took a step forward, her voice steady, but her insides twisted. "We need to talk." The man's lips curled into a slow, almost imperceptible smile. "I was wondering when you'd figure it out," he said, his voice low and menacing. Sarah's stomach sank. It was clear that he knew exactly what she was there for. In that instant, the danger of the situation became terrifyingly real. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. It was a standoff. Before Sarah could react, the man took a step toward her, his movements deliberate, predatory. He had been watching her, waiting for this moment. The fear that gripped her wasn't just about what he might do to her, but what he could do to Ethan. Johnny's words echoed in her mind. "This situation could be dangerous for you and Ethan. You can't do this alone." And just as the man reached for her, a shout rang out from behind her, a flash of movement. Sarah whipped around to see Johnny Depp, flanked by a team of trusted associates and law enforcement officers, storming toward them. The man's expression twisted with rage, but before he could make a move, the officers were on him, cuffing him and pulling him away. Sarah stood frozen, her breath coming in ragged gasps, as Johnny stepped toward her, his face filled with a mixture of concern and relief. "Are you okay?" Johnny asked, his voice soft but urgent. Sarah nodded, her knees suddenly feeling weak beneath her. She couldn't believe what had just happened. In the chaos of it all, she had barely processed that Johnny Depp, the actor she had admired for years, had just saved her life. His intervention, his protective instincts, had made all the difference. Johnny gave her a reassuring smile, but it was clear that the danger wasn't over. Still, for the moment, she felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He had gone above and beyond, not just for her, but for Ethan. Sarah could hardly find the words to express how deeply she appreciated what Johnny had done for them. "I'll always have your back," Johnny said, his voice low, as they stood together, watching the man who had threatened their family being led away in cuffs. As Sarah stood there, taking in everything that had just transpired, she realized that Johnny Depp wasn't just an actor. He was a hero. In the days that followed, Sarah found herself still processing the events that had unfolded. The danger they had narrowly escaped was still fresh in her mind, and at times she felt a deep, unsettling fear that lingered in the quiet moments. But amidst the fear, there was also a profound sense of gratitude for Johnny Depp's involvement. He had come through for them in a way no one else could have, stepping into a situation that could have turned deadly, with unwavering courage and decisive action. As she watched Ethan slowly begin to return to his old self, Sarah couldn't help but feel thankful that they were both still safe. But she also knew that the path to healing would be long. The trauma of the experience had left a mark on them both. They would need time, but they would face it together. She sat down with Ethan one evening, after everything had settled, and looked at him with soft eyes. "You did the right thing," she told him, her voice thick with emotion. "By speaking up, you saved us all. You were brave, and I'm proud of you." Ethan's eyes filled with tears, but a small smile tugged at the corner of his lips. The weight of the secret he had carried had been unbearable, but now he could finally begin to let it go. Johnny Depp, on the other hand, never sought recognition for his actions. He didn't want praise or attention. For him, it was just the right thing to do. But for Sarah and Ethan, he had become something more than just a celebrity. They would always remember him as the man who had stepped into their lives when they needed him most. In a way, Johnny had become a silent hero in their story, one whose presence had changed everything for the better. And as Sarah looked at her son, safe and sound, she knew their lives would never be the same, thanks to a man who had made a difference when it mattered the most. Thank you so much for watching this incredible story unfold. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes even the smallest secrets can lead to the most dangerous situations, and how one act of kindness can change everything. Johnny Depp's intervention may have seemed like an unexpected twist, but it shows us that heroes come in all forms. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss out on more heart-pounding tales like this one. Share this with your friends and family because you never know who might need to hear this message of courage, hope, and the importance of speaking up. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Comment below and let us know what you think of the story, or if you've ever experienced a moment that changed everything in your life. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you more stories that keep you on the edge of your seat. Stay safe, and see you next time.